Montana Territory, 1878. The train station at Silver Creek stood as a lonely sentinel against the vast wilderness, a mere of civilization where the railroad cut its way through untamed land. Hope Lambert had arrived 6 months ago, a bride of 19 traveling to meet her husband, only to discover upon arrival that influenza had claimed him 3 days before her train pulled in. Now, at 20, she found herself the owner of a small but promising dress shop, and a widow who had never truly been a wife. Hope believed the frontier held nothing but empty promises. Everyone she had ever loved had been taken from her, first her parents in a Philadelphia fire, then the aunt who'd raised her to consumption, and finally Thomas, the husband she'd never met, but whose letters had painted such a beautiful future. The West, Hope had decided, was where dreams came to die. Better to focus on survival and her small business than to open her heart to more disappointment. On this particular September morning, Hope stood on the train platform waiting for a delivery of fabrics from Chicago. Her pale blue dress with white lace trim at the collar fluttered in the breeze, her honey blonde hair pinned neatly beneath a modest bonnet. She clutched her order forms tightly, mentally calculating how many dresses she could make from the new material, how many dollars that would bring in, and whether it would be enough to keep her shop running through winter. Better to count coins than stars, she whispered to herself, the mantra that had gotten her through 6 months of widowhood before she'd even had a chance to be a bride. The approaching train's whistle pierced the morning air as it rounded the bend, black smoke billowing from its stack. Hope stepped back as the iron beast hissed to a halt, steam enveloping the platform. When it cleared, she found herself staring at a young man who had apparently been standing on the other side of the platform the whole time. Adam Keller had never planned to stop in Silver Creek. At 25, he'd spent the last 3 years driving cattle from Texas to Montana, working his way up from greenhorn to respected cowhand. He had saved nearly every penny, dreaming of his own ranch someday. But dreams required land, and land required money, more than he had managed to save. 2 weeks ago, he'd received word that his uncle had died, leaving him a small parcel of land just outside Silver Creek. It wasn't much, certainly not the sprawling ranch of his dreams, but it was a start. Adam believed a man made his own fortune in this world, that relying on others only led to disappointment. His father had died beneath the hooves of his own cattle when Adam was just 14, leaving his mother to slowly wither away from grief. The lesson was clear. In the West, you survived alone or you didn't survive at all. As the train pulled away, Adam found himself studying the young woman across the platform. Something about her solitary figure struck him. The straight spine, the determined set of her jaw, the way she seemed so intentionally alone. "Pardon me, miss," called the station master, breaking both their reveries. "Miss Lambert, this is for you." He gestured to several wooden crates being unloaded. "Thank you, Mr. Jenkins," Hope replied. "Has Mr. Wilson sent his wagon as promised?" The station master shook his head. "Afraid not. His boy came by earlier, said a wheel broke on the return from Blackwater Ridge." Hope's composed expression faltered. "I see." She glanced at the heavy crates, then back toward town, clearly calculating the impossible task of moving them herself. Adam found himself stepping forward before he'd made a conscious decision. "I could help you with those, ma'am," he offered, tipping his hat. "I've got time before my appointment at the land office." Hope looked at him fully then, taking in his lean frame, the clean denim pants and cotton shirt beneath a well-worn leather vest. His face was freshly shaved save for a hint of stubble along his strong jawline, his eyes the clear blue of a mountain lake. Something inside her seemed to still, then quicken. "That's very kind, but unnecessary," she replied automatically, the words at odds with her predicament. "No trouble at all," Adam insisted. "I've got a wagon hitched just over there." He gestured to where a bay horse stood patiently beside a small buckboard. For a moment, Hope hesitated. Accepting help meant acknowledging weakness, creating a debt. In Silver Creek, debts of gratitude could be as dangerous as financial ones for a woman alone. But as the station master began stacking her precious fabrics on the dusty platform, practicality won out. "Very well," she conceded. "I would appreciate the assistance, Mr. Keller." "Adam Keller." He extended his hand. "Hope Lambert." Her small hand disappeared briefly in his calloused one, the touch sending an unexpected warmth up her arm. As Adam loaded the crates onto his wagon, Hope found herself studying him. There was something different about this cowboy, a gentleness that belied his obvious strength, a courtesy that seemed genuine rather than a prelude to unwanted attentions. "You're new to Silver Creek," she observed as he secured the last crate. Adam nodded, helping her up to the wagon seat. "Just arrived. My uncle, Henry Keller, left me his claim." Hope's eyes widened slightly. "The Keller place? Out by Aspen Creek. You knew him?" Adam asked, climbing up beside her and taking the reins. "Of him," Hope corrected. "I've only been in Silver Creek 6 months myself." She hesitated, then added, "I came to marry Thomas Lambert, but he died before I arrived." Adam glanced at her, taking in this information with a thoughtful nod. "I'm sorry to hear that." "Thank you," Hope replied, the words automatic after months of receiving condolences for a husband she'd never met. "Your uncle's place has good water. The creek runs year-round, even in drought years." Adam raised an eyebrow, surprised by her knowledge. Hope offered a small smile. "When you make dresses for every woman in town, you hear things. Water rights are a common topic of conversation." As they rode toward her shop, Hope found herself pointing out the buildings of Silver Creek, the general store, the assayer's office, the small church where she sang in the choir every Sunday. Adam listened attentively, asking questions that revealed a sharp mind behind his quiet demeanor. When they reached her shop, a neat storefront with Lambert's fine dressmaking painted on the window, Adam unloaded her crates with efficient care. "Thank you, Mr. Keller," Hope said when he finished, reaching for her purse. "Please allow me to compensate you for your time." Adam shook his head. "No need for that, Mrs. Lambert. Neighbors should help each other." He paused, then added, "Though I wouldn't say no to some advice about the Keller place, if you've heard anything useful." Hope hesitated, then nodded. "I close at 6. Perhaps you could stop by then, and I could share what I know over tea." Something in Adam's expression brightened. "I'd appreciate that very much." As he drove away toward the land office, Hope stood watching his retreating figure, wondering why her heart seemed lighter than it had in months. She quickly dismissed the feeling. Silver Creek needed every decent resident it could get. That was all her interests signified. That evening, as Hope arranged cups and saucers on her small table behind the shop, she told herself this was merely neighborly obligation. But she had changed into her Sunday dress, pale green with darker green piping, and found herself checking her reflection in the mirror more than once. At precisely 6 o'clock, a knock sounded at her door. Adam stood on her porch, hat in hand, his hair still damp from what was clearly a recent washing. He had changed into a clean shirt and brushed his vest. "Mr. Keller," Hope greeted him. "Please come in." Over tea, Hope shared what she knew about Henry Keller's property, which neighboring ranchers were honest, which would try to claim water rights that weren't theirs, which merchant in town gave fair prices for wool and which for beef. "You seem to know a great deal about ranching for a dressmaker," Adam observed. Hope sipped her tea. "My father raised sheep in Pennsylvania before he died. And as I said, I hear things." "Your shop seems to be doing well," Adam commented, glancing around at the neat workspace with its bolts of fabric and half-finished garments. "Well enough," Hope acknowledged. "Though I worry about winter. People order fewer new clothes when the snow flies." Adam nodded thoughtfully. "Uncle Henry's place has a small flock of sheep. I was thinking of selling them. Cattle is what I know. But perhaps I should reconsider." "Sheep are well suited to this climate," Hope noted, "and will always sell, especially in winter." Their conversation flowed easily, touching on the challenges of frontier life, their respective journeys west, and their hopes for the future, though both carefully avoided any mention of personal connections or feelings. As Adam prepared to leave, he hesitated at the door. "Mrs. Lambert, the church social is this Saturday. I don't know many people yet. Would you consider attending with me?" "As neighbors, of course." Hope felt a flutter in her chest that she quickly suppressed. "As neighbors," she agreed. "That would be sensible." Over the next few days, Hope found herself thinking of Adam at odd moments, while cutting patterns, during fittings, even in the quiet of her small bedroom above the shop. She told herself it was merely the novelty of new friendship in a town where she was still considered an outsider despite 6 months of residence. Saturday arrived crisp and clear. Adam appeared at her door promptly at noon, dressed in his best clothes, the buckboard freshly cleaned. As they rode to the church grounds, Hope was acutely aware of the curious glances from townsfolk. A young widow and a handsome newcomer made for irresistible speculation. The social was lively, with tables of food, fiddle music, and children playing games on the grass. Hope introduced Adam to those she knew, surprised at how naturally they moved together through the crowd. When Mrs. Peterson, the banker's wife, commented on what a handsome couple they made, Hope felt herself blush for the first time since arriving in Silver Creek. "Would you care to dance?" Adam asked when the fiddlers began a waltz. "I'm not sure that would be appropriate," Hope demurred, though her heart said otherwise. "I'm still in mourning, technically." Adam studied her face. "For a man you never met." The gentle challenge in his words struck her. Thomas had been a dream, a collection of letters, a promise of security, not a flesh-and-blood husband she had loved and lost. "Perhaps one dance," she conceded. His hand at her waist felt steady, sure. As they moved across the grass, Hope realized it was the first time she had been held, even in this proper way, since leaving Philadelphia. The sensation was both foreign and achingly familiar, a human connection she had denied herself for too long. "You dance well, Mr. Keller," she said, trying to maintain some semblance of propriety despite the warmth blooming in her chest. "My mother insisted," he replied with a smile. "Said no son of hers would stomp around a dance floor like a newborn colt." Hope laughed, the sound surprising her. When had she last truly laughed? Their moment of connection was broken by a commotion at the edge of the gathering. 3 men on horseback had ridden up, dust-covered and grim-faced. "Outlaws hit the Miller place," one called out. "Took everything they had and burned the barn. Sheriff's calling for volunteers to ride after them." Adam's expression changed instantly, his jaw tightening. He turned to Hope. "I should go." Fear gripped her. "You're new here. This isn't your fight. If I'm to call Silver Creek home, then it is," Adam replied simply. As he joined the gathering posse, Hope felt the fragile bubble of happiness that had been building burst. This was why attachments were dangerous in the West. Men rode off into danger and sometimes never returned. "Be careful," she whispered as he mounted a borrowed horse. Adam looked down at her, something unspoken passing between them. "I'll come back," he promised, and in that moment, they both knew he meant to her, not just to Silver Creek. For 3 days, Hope moved through her routines mechanically, starting at every sound that might be riders returning. She sewed with fierce concentration, as if each perfect stitch could somehow ensure Adam's safe return. When the posse finally rode back into town, Hope was fitting Mrs. Jenkins for a new Sunday dress. She heard the commotion and ran to her door, hard in her throat. The men looked exhausted, some wounded. She scanned their faces desperately until she spotted Adam near the back, a bandage around his forearm, but otherwise whole. Their eyes met across the dusty street. Hope raised a hand in greeting, then quickly retreated into her shop, unsettled by the intensity of her relief. That evening, a knock came at her door after closing. Adam stood there, his injured arm in a proper sling now. "The doctor said it's just a graze," he said before she could ask. "We caught up to them at the territorial border. Got most of the Miller's things back." Hope nodded, fighting the urge to touch him, to reassure herself he was truly there. "Would you like to come in? I have stew warming." Over dinner, Adam described the pursuit in careful terms, clearly editing the more dangerous moments. Hope listened, hearing as much in what he didn't say as what he did. "I've been thinking," Adam said finally, setting down his spoon. "Uncle Henry's house needs work before winter comes. The roof leaks, and the sheep need a better shelter. I'm sure Mr. Carpenter would help," Hope suggested, referring to the town's builder. "He's already agreed to the roof," Adam nodded. "But I was thinking about wool. With winter coming, there might be an opportunity for us both." "How so?" Hope asked, curious. "You need steady business through winter. I need to make the most of what the sheep produce." Adam leaned forward slightly. "What if we partnered? You could make woolen goods from my sheep's fleece, blankets, shawls, winter clothes. We could split the profits." Hope considered the proposal. It made good business sense, but it would also mean regular contact with Adam throughout the winter months. "A practical arrangement," she said finally. "I would need to see the quality of the wool first." "Of course," Adam agreed, though something in his expression suggested he understood her hesitation went beyond business concerns. 2 weeks later, their partnership began in earnest. Adam delivered the first sheared wool, and Hope set to work cleaning, carding, and spinning it into yarn. The wool proved exceptional, soft yet durable, taking dye beautifully. Throughout October, as frost began to silver the mornings, they fell into a rhythm. Adam would bring wool and stay to help with the heavier tasks around her shop. Hope began visiting the Keller place on Sundays after church, offering advice on improvements and sometimes sharing a meal. They were careful to maintain proprieties, always meeting in public or with doors open, never lingering too late. But with each interaction, the walls around Hope's heart crumbled a little more. On a crisp November afternoon, as they worked together in her back room sorting colored yarns, Adam's hand brushed against hers. Neither pulled away immediately. The simple touch held more meaning than either was ready to acknowledge. "Hope," Adam said softly, using her given name for the first time. "I need to tell you something." She looked up, struck by the seriousness in his expression. "Before I came here, I was in trouble in Wyoming," he confessed. "Nothing illegal, but I made an enemy of Franklin Holt, a powerful rancher. I outbid him on a horse he wanted, and he took it personally. Made it impossible for me to find work. That's why I left." "Why are you telling me this?" Hope asked quietly. "Because I've heard he's expanded his interests into Montana territory." Adam's blue eyes held hers steadily. "If he discovers I'm here, there could be trouble. I wouldn't want that trouble to touch you." Hope felt a chill that had nothing to do with the autumn air. "Are you saying we shouldn't continue our business arrangement?" "No," Adam said quickly. "I'm saying you should know the risks of being associated with me. I'd understand if you wanted to end our partnership." Hope considered his words carefully. The prudent choice would be to distance herself. Yet the thought of not seeing Adam regularly made her chest ache in a way she couldn't ignore. "I appreciate your honesty," she said finally. "But I'm no stranger to difficulties, Mr. Keller. Our arrangement is beneficial to us both. I see no reason to change it." Relief washed over Adam's face. "Thank you." As November deepened toward December, Hope's shop filled with the woolen goods they produced together. The townspeople eagerly purchased the warm blankets, scarves, and shawls, praising their quality. For the first time, Hope felt truly secure in her business. But more than that, she felt alive in a way she hadn't since before her parents died. Adam brought laughter back into her life, along with conversations that stretched late into the evening. They discovered shared loves of music and literature, exchanging books, and sometimes reading aloud to each other while they worked. On the first snow of the season, Adam arrived at her shop with his wagon covered against the weather. "I thought you might like to see something," he said mysteriously. "If you can close early?" Intrigued, Hope agreed, wrapping herself in her warmest cloak and bonnet before joining him in the wagon. They rode out of town toward his property, the snow falling gently around them. When they reached the Keller place, Hope gasped softly. Adam had been working harder than she realized. The cabin stood freshly chinked and painted, smoke curling invitingly from the chimney. A new barn had been raised beside it, and the sheep huddled contentedly inside a sturdy pen. "It's transformed," she exclaimed as he helped her down from the wagon. "When did you find time for all this?" "Evenings, mostly," Adam admitted. "And the neighbors helped with the barn raising. Seems I'm becoming accepted around here." He led her inside the cabin, where a fire crackled in the hearth and the tantalizing smell of stew filled the air. "Mrs. Peterson helped with the cooking," he explained, seeing her questioning glance. "I wanted to thank you properly for our partnership. It's made all the difference to me." The cabin's interior was simple but comfortable. A table and chairs, a stove, shelves stocked with provisions, and a rocking chair beside the fire. Hope noticed books on a small shelf and recognized titles they had discussed. As they shared the meal, sitting across from each other at his table, Hope felt a sense of rightness, of home, that had eluded her since arriving in Montana. "I never thanked you properly," she said suddenly. "For what?" Adam asked. "For stopping to help me that day at the station." Hope met his gaze steadily. "I've been alone for so long, first by circumstance, then by choice. I convinced myself it was safer that way." Adam's expression softened. "And now," before Hope could answer, the sound of approaching horses broke the moment. Adam moved swiftly to the window, then stiffened. "It's Franklin Holt," he said grimly. "And he's not alone." Hope joined him at the window. 5 men on horseback were approaching the cabin, their expressions visible even through the falling snow. "Adam Keller," called a large man on a black horse. "Come out and face me like a man." Adam turned to Hope, his face taut with concern. "I'm sorry to have brought this to your door. Stay inside while I deal with this." "No," Hope caught his arm. There are 5 of them and 1 of you. This is madness. I won't let him threaten what I've built here, Adam said firmly. Or what we might have. The words hung between them, the first acknowledgement of the feelings that had been growing. Then we face him together, Hope declared, reaching for her cloak. Adam started to protest, then saw the determination in her eyes. He nodded once, and they stepped onto the porch side by side. Franklin Holt was a bear of a man, his face red with cold and anger. Thought you could hide from me in this backwater, Keller? You humiliated me in front of half of Cheyenne. That was 3 years ago, Holt, Adam replied evenly. Over a horse auction. Most men would have forgotten it by now. I'm not most men, Holt growled. I came to run you out, or put you in the ground. His eyes shifted to Hope. This your woman? Pretty little thing. Be a shame if something happened to her shop in town. Adam tensed beside her, but before he could respond, Hope stepped forward. Mr. Holt, she said clearly, I don't know what grievance you think justifies threatening a man on his own property, but Silver Creek is not Cheyenne. Sheriff Davis takes a dim view of troublemakers, and Judge Wilson rides circuit next week. If you're planning to stay in Montana territory, you might consider whether making enemies of the entire town is in your best interest. Holt blinked, clearly surprised by her forthright address. This isn't your concern, woman. On the contrary, Hope continued, heart pounding but voice steady. Adam Keller is my business partner and friend. His sheep provide wool for my shop, which supplies half the families in this county. The merchants support us both. If you're looking to establish business interests here, as I've heard, making an enemy of the community's dressmaker is remarkably short-sighted. One of Holt's men shifted uncomfortably. Boss, she might have a point. We're supposed to meet with the mining investors tomorrow. Can't afford bad blood with the locals before we even start. Holt scowled, looking from Hope to Adam. This isn't finished, Keller. Actually, it is, came another voice as Sheriff Davis rode up with 3 deputies. Mrs. Peterson saw these men heading this way and didn't like their looks. The sheriff surveyed the scene. Any problem here, Mrs. Lambert? Mr. Holt was just leaving, Hope replied. He realized his business with Mr. Keller was concluded long ago in Wyoming. Caught between the sheriff's suspicious gaze and Hope's unwavering stance, Holt finally spat on the ground. Keep your worthless patch of dirt, Keller. It's not worth my time. He wheeled his horse around. But watch your back. As Holt and his men rode away under the sheriff's watchful eye, Hope suddenly felt her knees weaken. Adam caught her elbow, steadying her. That, he said with quiet admiration, was the bravest thing I've ever seen. Hope managed a shaky smile. I was terrified, but I couldn't let him threaten you, or us. The sheriff approached them. Everything all right here? Yes, thank you, Sheriff, Adam replied. I appreciate your timely arrival. Don't thank me. Thank Mrs. Peterson's suspicious nature. The sheriff tipped his hat to Hope. Mrs. Lambert, do you need an escort back to town? Hope glanced at Adam, then back to the sheriff. I think I'll stay a while longer. Mr. Keller and I have business matters to discuss. After the sheriff departed, promising to keep an eye on Holt and his men, Adam led Hope back inside the cabin. They stood before the fire, the confrontation having changed something fundamental between them. I thought I was protecting you by keeping my distance, Adam said finally, even while I was drawn closer to you every day. And I thought I was protecting myself by believing I couldn't love again, Hope replied softly. That the frontier was too harsh for tender feelings. Adam took her hands in his. When I saw Holt threatening you, I realized something. The frontier is harsh. That's why we need each other all the more. Surviving alone isn't really living. I've been alone since I stepped off that train, Hope admitted. Until you helped me with those crates. Hope, Adam said, his voice gentle as he reached up to touch her cheek. When I came to Silver Creek, I was only looking for land. Instead, I found a home. Because of you. I've been waiting, Hope whispered, tears gathering in her eyes. Waiting for someone like you. Someone who makes me feel that life here isn't just about enduring, but about building something beautiful together. Their first kiss was tender, a promise exchanged in the warmth of the firelight while snow fell outside. When they finally drew apart, Hope saw in Adam's eyes the same certainty she felt in her heart. It won't be easy, he cautioned. Holt may return. Winter will be hard. The sheep might not. Hope pressed a finger to his lips, smiling. The sheep will be fine. The blankets and shawls are selling faster than I can make them. And as for Holt, Let him try to stand against both of us. 3 weeks later, on Christmas Eve, the citizens of Silver Creek gathered for the annual service at the small church. Hope sat beside Adam, her green wool dress complemented by the intricate shawl they had created together from the first of his sheep's wool. After the service, as candles glowed and carols filled the air, Adam led Hope to the center of the church. "Friends," he called, his clear voice bringing conversations to a halt. "I have an announcement to make." Hope looked up at him in surprise as he turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. "6 months ago, I came to Silver Creek believing a man should stand alone in this world. Hope Lambert showed me how wrong I was." His blue eyes held her steadily. "With your blessing, Reverend Johnson, I'd like to ask for Mrs. Lambert's hand in marriage here, before the community that has become our home." A murmur of approval ran through the gathering as Hope felt joy bubble up inside her. "Hope," Adam continued more softly, "you've taught me that true strength comes from connection, not isolation. Would you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" "Yes," Hope answered without hesitation. "With all my heart, yes." Cheers erupted as Adam slipped a simple silver ring onto her finger. It was engraved with a pattern of wool and thread intertwined. Their two worlds joined as one. As spring came to Montana territory, Hope and Adam Keller stood together on the porch of what was now their home. The sheep grazed peacefully on the green slopes, lambs frolicking among them. Behind the cabin, a new building was taking shape, a workshop where Hope could create her designs while staying close to Adam and the growing flock. "Hard to believe it's been less than a year since we met," Adam reflected, his arm around his wife's waist. Hope leaned against him, content. "I remember thinking that day at the station that the frontier was where dreams came to die. I was so wrong. What do you think now?" Adam asked, pressing a kiss to her temple. Hope smiled, looking out over the land they were building together. "I think the frontier is where we learn what truly matters, and find the courage to hold on to it with both hands." As the sun set over their small but flourishing homestead, Hope and Adam Keller stood witness to the truth they had discovered together. That even in the harsh wilderness of the American West, love could not only survive but thrive, transforming survival into something far more precious, a life fully and joyfully lived together.